It's Tuesday night, and this is Fearless Flight Live. Welcome to our show that we do exclusively for people who are afraid to fly, people who know somebody's afraid to fly, and for people who just like to keep tabs on what's going on in the commercial airline industry. So welcome to everybody. Got everybody back this week. Well, we're still missing Elaine. She's still got baseball duties with her nephew's baseball team. But other than that, we got Diane and Eric and Dieter. And we've got three special guests tonight that I'm going to introduce you to here in just a minute. First thing I want to say is to invite you to join our Facebook Birds of a Feather group. And I went over there. I didn't get a chance to see, but we got to be pushing 800 people now. You've been people
yeah, we're
been
close. We're very close.
Yeah, joining rights and left, and it's amazing to see the dynamic when we get to this. We've obviously passed the critical mass where the group is self-sustaining and lots of interaction. With just following Wendy, we'll talk a little bit about it, but there were 100 and some posts in response to Wendy's post. And so it's a really cool thing to watch people support each other and watch people open up and request help out there. So if you haven't joined, please consider joining. It's a great thing. So we're going to remind you again about the 101 classes coming up in Phoenix here. If you're available on July 10th, and if you're not, if you're somewhere else or you can't get to Phoenix on July 11th, we're going to do the next online class. And Dieter switched over there. Yeah. So you go to this well, this is the online link, but when you click on the link, it'll basically take you to the in-person class, and then you'll get a choice when you click on the next screen whether you want to register for the online or the in-person class there. But it's this in-person link there. So yeah, and so back to our special guests. We got Wendy Moy, Tom Toka, and Oliver Fry, three just awesome people. Courage beyond compare. And we had some other things, but I think we're going to end up running out of time because none of these people are short on conversation, and I'm not. So we just
and I just want to say, if you're watching this live, take advantage of the great opportunity to actually ask your questions that you have for Oliver or Wendy or Tom in the comments, and then we're gonna be able to ask them live for you. So make sure you take advantage of that opportunity. And yeah,
and these guests will be particularly interesting because they cover the whole spectrum of issues that come up for people. So I'm going to encourage you to try to find your story in there. So let's move on to the next slide, Peter, and we will get
that's our poll question for today.
The poll question, because and you'll hear them talk about how long they've been working on this, but just ask yourself, if you're watching this live or you're watching the replay, are you ready to fly? You obviously came here because either you or somebody is afraid to fly or has a fear of flying. So ask yourself if you're ready. If you're not, what needs to happen for you to get in the air? And we'll focus on that with the three guests here tonight. What got them, why now? And what helped make them successful, kind of spilling the beans. We were hugely successful yesterday. So think about that. Again, put a comment down there and just let us know. I'm really curious as to what are the biggest obstacles for people, and if you can go beyond that, not just like I have claustrophobia, I have anticipatory anxiety, but what keeps you from beyond that? Be as explicit as you can. Okay, all right. So without further ado, I call the captain's corner tonight. I wanted to make a couple of observations here as I watched the folks that you're going to meet here in just a short bit yesterday. Tweak this. As I watched them, I realized how far I've come in my own confidence. I was talking to folks, and when we got there, it was obvious that like it is in any of the times I work with people, particularly when we get on an airplane and we fly together, that nobody's faking this. This is a real fear. And one of the things that kept coming up is the people, even the closest people to people who are afraid to fly, loved ones and all, have no idea what an anxiety disorder really means to people. And I've clearly found that. I confided in them, when I started doing this 34 years ago and started flying with people, probably now isn't a great time to confess this, but I really thought, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I'd go to the airport with these people and, I was just somebody that was sitting there friendly and talking to them, and I would answer questions and all that. And I had doubts in my mind every time I'd get to a class and I'd see these people coming up and they were anxious and thinking about turning around and going home and all that. And, on the outside, I was confident. On the inside, I was like, oh man, I hope I don't break one of these people. And it never failed. We would get on the airplane and within minutes, just like yesterday, people would start to break through. And by the time we got to the first destination, before we turned around and came home, you could hardly tell that anybody had an issue with flying. And again, revealing the big plot here, spoiler alert, that's what happened yesterday as well. And so again, I want to remind you, as you listen to their stories tonight, see if you can find your story inside of this and see if you can relate to how they got to where they got to yesterday. So with that, let's bring everybody on board. I mentioned that we have 3 people tonight. Wendy, it turns out all of them are from the Southern California area and all drove over here, with the exception of Wendy. And so I'm going to ask her in just a minute to tell you the unique part of her experience here. But then we have Tom Toka and we have Oliver Fry. And welcome to all 3 of you guys. Gosh, it seems like 100 years since we did this. You guys are all old seasoned travelers now, but anyway. So just real quick, Wendy, just a little bit about who you are, what you do for a living, and where you're from.
Okay, my name is Wendy Moy. I'm a nurse and I live in Southern California in Mission Viejo.
Okay, Tom, how about you?
Hello guys, first of all, it's my honor to be here. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Thomas. I live in Paris. It's by Riverside in California. I am originally from Poland in Europe, and I'm an IT professional for the biometric devices.
Thanks, Tom. Oliver, you're an old hat here.
Yeah, my name is Oliver Fry. I live in the Los Angeles area, and I'm a firefighter, and I've been working with Captain Ron for the past year or so.
Okay, so Wendy, just a few quick words about your history with Fear Flying and what got you here yesterday.
Probably, I don't know. I used to fly a lot for my job. I used to be in the entertainment industry, flew a lot, and then for some reason, and I can't put my finger on it, but I just became afraid to fly. I never liked it, but I just couldn't do it anymore. And so it's really been I figured out today, about 32 years since I've flown. I realize it's safe, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it.
Yeah. Tom, how about you?
Long story. So I'm from Europe. So I flew many times over the Atlantic Ocean, maybe 12 times back and forth. I love planes. I love aviation. I know something about it. I flew maybe more than 60, 70 times in my life. One day, something happened. I just panicked on the one flight from Long Beach to Oakland, and I couldn't fly back. It was more than 10 years. For 10 years, I was not able to do it. This what happened.
And yeah, so again, kind of a mystery on top of a mystery. Oliver, how about you?
Yeah, I didn't fly for almost probably about 15 years. A fear came over me about most likely embarrassing myself on the flight if I had a panic attack or something like that. But the biggest issue I know planes are safe. You can tell me every statistical number there is out there, and I know they're safe, but I was just embarrassed of embarrassing myself. I didn't want to make a scene or anything like that if I did have a panic attack on the plane.
Yeah. And I think that was a theme for all of you. Everybody knows that the airplane's safe and all that, but that doesn't address the problem. And I think that's one of the most frustrating things for people who have a fear of flying, to try to convey to people around them that that love you. They just don't get it. It's not that they're not unwilling to. It's just that if you've never experienced something like that, it's really hard to relate to. We'll go back in reverse order, Oliver. So this wasn't your first rodeo, right? We flew on my birthday a year ago. That was and right when the pandemic was really getting some momentum, if that's a sensible statement.
Yeah, so we flew about a little over a year ago, and it was on your birthday, and the airport was completely empty. It was strange walking through an empty airport, but as of yesterday, the plane was packed, the airport was packed. It was absolutely a madhouse there. It kept my mind a little busier with all the people there, not so gloomy and empty. But yeah, it was a whole different thing. And we flew about a little over a year ago. And I, with the COVID and everything like that, and I kind of, procrastinating, I should have flown prior to that, with myself or my family or something like that. But just with all the stuff going on with COVID, it just kind of delayed. And I said, you know what, I want to do a refresher with Captain Ron. And I did that yesterday with you guys.
And Tom, how about you? Yeah.
I'm sorry. What was the question? I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
The voice
I
broke
was
up. I'm
afraid
sorry.
you were going to ask me what the question was, because I wasn't paying attention myself. Just about like your experiences coming, getting over here, and you had come to attended the 101 class live, hadn't you? You had driven over here before? Yeah.
Yes, I did twice. The first time I was scared to even to board the stationary plane. I was already freaking out. The second time there was no issue. And I knew it, we have to keep going. That's why I was asking you if you can do the 301 class. I want to do the next step. Going back on the plane is not going to help. I need something more. So that's why I decided to do 301 class. And it was tough. We're going to go to it, but it did work out.
Yeah, yeah. And Wendy, how about you?
Like I said, it's been a really, really long time. My kids have grown. They've started to spread out over the country. I've got one in Portland, one in Iowa, and we just bought our retirement home in Texas. So in the last 18 months, I've driven to Iowa twice. I've driven to Portland twice. I've driven to Texas twice. And on the way back from the last trip to Texas, I said, this is ridiculous. I'm spending way too much time in a car. I'm not enjoying my family. I got to do something. So it was time.
And did you want to ask a question, Eric, or make a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to kid her for a minute saying if she lived in the Northeast, going across that many states wouldn't be a big deal. But these states out here are really
right?
Big.
Yeah, we were talking about it. Texas is a state you can drive the whole day and still be in Texas. So,
Yep.
So what I wanted to ask her, though, since you did 2 of these Orange County turns, essentially, were they just the same, or was one a lot smoother?
Well, hold off on that. Hold off on that, Eric. I'm gonna bring her in next time. So okay. So back to that. Yeah, everybody's curious. At least everybody in the staff here is curious, Wendy, about how I talked you into coming out, and I didn't. You called me up. So tell me what your thoughts were. How this all transpired this past week.
4 legs.
So I decided that I was gonna do this thing. And so I signed up to do the flight on yesterday, and then started mapping out that I was going to drive out on the Sunday before. We were going to take the 2 flights on Monday and drive back on Tuesday. And part of my prep had been watching tons and tons and tons of YouTube videos. And so I knew we were flying on a Southwest flight. So I watched every Southwest YouTube video of boarding and takeoff and landing. And I started thinking, this really doesn't look that bad. I think I might be able to do this. So I messaged Ron and I said, do you think I could actually fly out there instead of drive out there? Because if I can do 4 flights in 3 days, I'm going to lick this thing. And he said, I know you can. Yeah. So I booked the flight and didn't tell anyone in my family I was doing it. And I did it.
and it was amazing. I mean, it was so much.
Oh,
What was it like
absolutely.
when you finally got to the airport? Because we don't want to minimize this, because this is where people think, oh, Wendy's different from me, and So when you got to the airport to fly over here, what was that like for you?
So I finally told my husband, I mean, he knew I was going to do the flight. He didn't know I was going to fly out there. He thought I was going to drive. And I finally decided someone's got to know what I'm doing. So I told him, and he took me to the airport, and we had breakfast, and he's like, "You're not talking. Why are you not saying anything?" And I said, "Because I'm terrified." And I got to the airport, and I went through security, and as a treat, I booked myself on first class, and I booked myself to be able to go into the Admiral's Lounge in the first class lounge. And I thought, we'll see how I do. And I went through security, and I got to the Admiral's Lounge. I sat down, I put in the harmonizer, I closed my eyes, and I was terrified, absolutely terrified. Opened my eyes, and there was a ton of people there all of a sudden. It was quiet when I got there, and there was a ton of people. I thought, I can't do this. I'm going to call my husband and tell him I can't do it. And I kept telling myself, first of all, how disappointed I would be in myself. But second of all, I kept thinking about what it's going to feel like when I get off the plane, and how great it's going to be when I get there. And no matter how hard it was, I did it. And so I literally forced myself to get on the plane, and I was terrified. I was shaking, but it's like, I just have to do this.
Yeah.
And
So hey, Dieter, if you could put on that first slide with us, with the group, when that's when we met at the gate yesterday. We'll talk a little bit about that. So here comes, we all meet there, and Tom shows up. Tom, how were you feeling by the time you got to the gate there?
I was bad, I wanted to do it for the long time, but I think I was the worst from the four group. I was so emotional. I wanted to walk away few times, First I met Oliver, and I said, I'm not gonna do it. Then you show up, you helped me a lot. The boarding was horrible. Boarding the plane was even worse. I was feeling dizzy. I even said to Wendy, I'm feeling dizzy. I was literally feeling dizzy. I was really scared what's gonna happen, but we did it. Again, I have to say it again. You, Ron, Wendy, Oliver, his wife, those people, they gave me such a huge support, emotional support, that after a few minutes being on the plane, I was like, we're gonna do it. They closed the door. I don't even know when. Then I just felt the pushback. And I don't know when we are on the runway. We just taking off. I was like, that was that quick.
If I would have been a betting man, I would have lost money on you yesterday, because I've seen enough people, and I said, he's going to make you. You did commit to getting on the airplane, which I really think is essential. And then we did some things we'll talk about in a minute there. But it's no surprise with the support you got. We got two first responders, sir, right? Wendy's a nurse, and Oliver is a doggone fireman. And I'm just sitting there, kind of sitting back. Well, this is going to be easy for me, because one of the things that they did was help each other, but particularly help Tom here when we were just getting started there. But it was amazing when you got on there. And Oliver, what was it like for you when we were getting started? You seem pretty cool, calm, and collected on the outside.
Yeah, when I was there, it actually took a lot of my mindset off. I was just talking with Tom and Wendy, but trying to really, I was very trying to help out Tom a lot. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of my nerves were kind of set aside, and it was helping me out, just focusing on, okay, Tom, we're going to get you on. We're going to do it together. Let's, we're going to get through this. Wendy looked cool because she already flew in and she felt really confident. And Tom, I was, like you said, if I was a betting man, I would have lost as well. And, but I was trying to support him, and I was pretty calm on the outside when I was there. I felt really good on the inside too. But then once we got on the plane and I wasn't, kind of separated from you guys a little bit, I started feeling a little anxious. But, and I looked at Tom, I said, if he's willing to do it and Wendy's doing it again, I said, this is no problem. So let's get this over with and let's do it again. So that's what was going through my mind. But I was pretty calm. I was actually surprisingly how calm I was the night before, getting to the airport, doing the airport, checking in and everything like that. And just working with Tom really took my mind off of myself.
Did you guys pre-board so you could all sit together and everything?
Yes, we did. We all
good.
pre-boarded. There wasn't an issue there in Phoenix when we pre-boarded. That was we all sat together. We kind of decided how we were going to arrange ourselves. And since I've done it before with Captain Ron, I said, you know what? I'll let Wendy and Tom sit with Captain Ron, and I sat with my wife across the aisle, and we were there. But I could easily talk to them and everything like that. So we did that. And then on the way there, the stewardess kept giving us a little hard time because I was trying to talk to Captain Ron. We're doing a lot of hand, gestures and stuff. And he would just walk through the aisle, making fun of us, like, break it up here, guys.
Yeah, we definitely had some fun. We got some other video that I'll post from in flight there. Wendy, so for Tom, it was a struggle. For Oliver, it wasn't as bad as it was the previous time he flew. For you, having flown the day before, I remember you really modeled how to step into this. It was like, get out of my way. I'm going to do this. So what was it like for you because now that was your second flight, right? When we got on the airplane yesterday. So
the flight out there that I took, I did absolutely everything you said. I took all the notes. I went to the gate agent and said, I need to pre-board. I have a medical condition. So I got on right away. I told the flight attendants when I got on, I'm a nervous flyer. Can I speak to the pilots? They took me in the cockpit. I spoke to the pilots. They were super honest. And I said, what do I need to know about today's flight? And they said, there's going to be turbulence. It's 118 in Phoenix. Unfortunately, there's going to be turbulence. But, and they started to explain what turbulence are. And I said, oh no, Captain Ron already told me what they are. I understand. I'm good with that. And by the time I got to my seat, I was shaking, but I was okay. I really was okay. And as soon as the plane took off, I was fine.
Yeah.
And from there on out, I was really, other than a little nervous, I was fine.
Yeah.
On all the other flights.
Tom, when you first sat down in Phoenix when we were about to depart for Orange County, that was probably the most difficult time for you, wasn't it? I mean, that you were really, really struggling.
That's correct. Yes, the leaving from Phoenix was really bad. That was first flight after 10 years not flying, having many failures before. I was really bad. I felt dizzy. I was dizzy. I was like. I was scared I'm gonna go panic for no reason. I don't know why. And you just cannot, somebody who never experienced that, they don't know what I'm talking about. Once you go panic, you cannot control this. You're just going super crazy, you're exploding. And I was scared what's gonna happen. I was scared of closing the door and the pushback and what's gonna happen after, all be good. And that's what happened. Don't gamble, I can tell you.
There were two favorite moments with you yesterday. One was when we were sitting there and I was convinced that you were going to get up and have to get off the airplane. And we got into, I think Wendy initiated, we were trying to get you on the Southwest app on your phone, right? Because we said, when you do that, you get all these things you can do in flight. And so we were having trouble figuring that out and all that. And I didn't do it on purpose, but I do like to not talk about the flight if I can, because that's the whole point is to get your mind to let go of what you're obsessing over. And at one point in time, you said, I know what you're doing, Ron, and that was actually the break point. I think, it was in that moment that there was a change in you. Because I don't remember you being really anxious anymore, even all the way until we got to takeoff. And it was a little bit there, but that was it for all three of you for the most part, but in particular for you. Yeah. It was that transition, and so we got to Orange County with really uneventful. I'm not lying, right? I mean, in a couple of minutes, whatever anxiety any of you had, it was pretty much gone, And even when there was a few bumps when we were climbing out of Phoenix, more coming back. It was a little later in the day and all that, which is typical in the summer, as Wendy pointed out, but it was really not a big deal. And we landed, we had some lunch and had a great time talking about your histories and fear flying and things like that. And so as we prepared to go back, I always like to ask everybody, so how was your anxiety going back, Oliver, when we were, getting ready to go back on the airplane there?
My anxiety was up a little bit because of the takeoff actually from Orange County.
Right.
The steep takeoff at 25 degree, I believe you described
the
it to us.
dreaded Orange County noise abatement departure. Right.
Yeah. So I was worried and Tom was worried, but on the way back, we flew in a different configuration. Wendy was an old pro. She was looking out the window the whole time.
Right.
She sat by my wife. And then, so it was Captain Ron at the window, then myself in the middle and Tom next to me in the aisle seat. And I looked at Tom and Tom goes, oh no, he goes, whenever he said, I don't even like roller coaster rides at Disneyland, the kids one. And you're all, well, this is a roller coaster ride. You can't get off now.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh man, he's right. So man, they got to the end of the runway there and I was nervous. Then all of a sudden they hold their brakes and they throttle up on those engines and you're just at, staging there and you can hear those engines roaring. Then all of a sudden you take off like a rocket ship. And we pulled up pretty quick and then we leveled off. And I'll tell you a funny thing is that I felt it. I knew what they were doing. And, you were just sitting there quietly and then we take off and then we level off real quick and they slow down the engines, which was good because the captain before we took off told us what was going to happen.
Yeah.
He told us, this is what we have to do at this airport. It's not unusual. Everything is safe. That's all FAA approved and everything. So when it was so funny after we did it and then we got over the ocean, they started climbing back up and then Tom goes, you go, how did it go, Tom? And Tom goes, when are they going to do it? And you're all, it's over. And he's all, oh, okay, I guess it wasn't too bad then.
And you weren't pulling my leg, right, Tom? I mean, you really were waiting for the big surprise, right?
Yes, I was like, I was waiting for the power reduction because I don't like the sensations going down. I know you're not going down. That's how you feel it. I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it. I did not feel it. Honestly, nothing.
And to the pilot's credit, whoever made the takeoff, it really was well done. I was a little nervous because when he ran the engines up, I try not to just make a stark brake release when you get the power at max because it lurches, But we lurched, and I thought, oh, that could be a telling sign of what's in store when he levels off up there. But he didn't. To their credit, they made a really nice transition, pulled the power back very, very gradually, and it was really hard to notice other than the obvious first pitch up and that. But that was my favorite part of the trip when I looked over you because at first I thought you're pulling my leg. I said, so what's going on? He says, well, when are they going to do the thing? And I said, we already did it. So that was probably the high point there. But
Ron,
anyway,
was either of those airplanes a Max?
No, they were 700s both ways. Yeah. So I was surprised. Yeah. And even as warm as it was, even over there, we had it was a good lurch when he released the brakes.
Hell yeah.
But he did a nice job. So yeah, go ahead, Diane.
Last weekend when I wasn't on the show, I was back east at a wedding and I was flying on Southwest and one of my flights was on, actually two of them were on a Max. And I would say that there was kind of a nice when we took off on that one. It was,
yeah, you mean you could really tell the acceleration.
Yeah.
And
even with one of my legs, I was sitting in a row with two deadheading other Southwest flight attendants. So it was an entire row of flight attendants, and it was fun.
Yeah, I mean they got the technical term is big ass engines, and they flat ass get after it. So just kind of to bring it all up, I'm wanting now Oliver in particular because Oliver said, "Hey Ron, can you fly with me after the class in June?" And I said, "Oh man, that's hard to put together." And all that, but it's to Oliver's credit not only that Tom and Wendy could make it, but that you've pushed me all over the edge. We've been talking for a long time about trying to do this in other cities. And I realize that I can scale this down and we can get smaller groups and go. And it really, it's awesome to have just a small group like that to fly with because you don't feel stretched from a crowded 30 or something like that, like we've had on some occasions. So thanks, Oliver, for putting a needle or a burr in my saddle and getting me off dead center on this. And then Wendy and Tom, thanks for standing up and going with us and for having the courage to do it. I mean, particularly you know, the two of you, you know, Oliver, I mean, he knew a little bit about what was going to happen, all that, but Wendy, I mean, to do that, I've only had literally half a dozen people in the 34 years do what you've done. You know, actually, I've coached them, you know, they fly to Phoenix and then take the class. And it was amazing. The farthest one's Michigan. You know, nobody's come from Australia or Mumbai. I got a client in Mumbai now. You know, he said, I don't think I'm going to be one of those people to fly in to take your class. But it is a sign of that. And if you ever meet Wendy, you'll know that she kicks ass and takes names. And I want you to be my nurse. Yeah. If I ever have to go back in the hospital, seriously.
Anytime.
I think it's really good for you guys too, that there were just the four of you so you could talk to each other and that sort of deal. If there had been 30 people and a bunch of us, everybody probably would have sat around nervously eyeballing the others to see who was going to be the first ones to bolt for the exit. But you wouldn't have been able to bond much in a big group. Yeah. So that was a good deal.
Yeah. And Tom, well, go ahead.
I just have to say, on my flight back today, there was pretty serious turbulence. So much so they had to stop the Bedford service for the flight attendant safety. I was not afraid at all.
I know. I got your text.
0.
Yeah.
And so you guys have given me my life back. I mean, seriously, my husband is so grateful that we're going to be able to live our lives finally. And I just can't encourage anyone enough to just step out and do it.
I have a saying that I heard years ago. It's life begins at the edge of our comfort zone. And you, all three of you, but in particular, Wendy, you really exemplify that. And so, and Tom, I want to commend you. I wish I could just release some of your brain space when it comes to IT stuff. You know, and when we first got on here, Eric commented on your drone behind you there. You know, and I know how technical you are, but I also know how, for all three of you, you're all very sharp. Really, you have a strong intellect. And again, that's part of the problem is for fear of flying. We can't shut that an analytical part of our mind down. You know, it just keeps playing what if questions over and over and over again. And the you know, I have a long time client that went through years ago. His name's Tom and he said, you know, his quote is, you know, sooner or later, you got to just get on the damn airplane. And all three of you exemplified that. You know, you just got to get on the damn airplane because it's about exposure, and you can't get over it without going through it. The shortest distance around your fear or over your fear is through it. So anyway,
and I just want to round up the comments on Facebook, and I just want to really, really, really hit home the fact that how it's really a communal effort. You know, and Oliver, you alluded to it, like it's the shame that keeps us kind of like, you know, separate and in this space that we're so afraid to let go of, right? And so many of the people who are watching can relate from the heart and from the brain and from their and it's just really, really refreshing and cool to hear you guys speak of what was really at some point an impossibility. And 32 years, Wendy, was it?
Yep.
Yeah, 32 years. And so I mean, it's a process, and that's the most important thing to take away from. And if you are working it, it'll work for you. And we're always hoping that when we're bringing, you know, amazing heroes like you guys on, that we can inspire that for everyone who's watching. So thank you for your courage, also to come on the line live and share your story with us. So
and I got to tell this story on Oliver. We're sitting there, we're talking about on the way home, and one of the first things he said to me was, he said, "Hey, you think we can find anybody else to go with us?" Because he said, if there's somebody else there, then I won't feel as out there by myself. And so we put it out there, and sure enough, Tom and Wendy responded. But then we're talking yesterday. So Oliver's telling us a story about how he hates to be thought of as the center of attention when it comes to sphere flying. flying, but he was at a sporting event, right? Where your daughter's soccer game or something, and
volleyball game.
A volleyball game. Somebody has a heart attack. So who comes down out of nowhere, swoops down and saves the day? But Oliver, and he thinks nothing of that. Or public speaking, public speaking was a nemesis for me. So it just goes to show you.
If I can say something, if that's okay, Cameron.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know it's getting a little long, but I was driving home, last night with my wife and my son, and I look at my wife and I say, I was a little disappointed with myself how I performed, and she goes, "You did fine." And I said, "Well, I just saw Wendy, just like, gosh, she was looking out the window the whole time." She goes, "You, by setting up this class with Captain Ron, encouraged Wendy to join and encouraged Tom to join." She goes, "It's not just about you, but look at the other people you've affected. You changed Wendy's life forever." Yep. And she goes, "You could see that she loved it." And Tom, talking about wanting to surprise his parents about flying to Poland and seeing them and just knocking on the door. And she goes, "That's what it's about." She goes, "It's about that. It's, you did well." She goes, "You did fine." And I was like, wow. And I said, "Yeah, if you put it in that respect, it was a big, big day for all three of us. It was just awesome. It was awesome.
You did great. Olivia, you did great. I'm very grateful for all of you. You did perfect. We all did perfect.
So it was good.
Dieter, if I could say one more thing.
If I could say one more thing, Captain Ron, let's talk about how cocky Captain Ron is. So we were there and a lady was having a medical emergency on the plane, and I felt more comfortable because a lot of attention went to her. And, I know Wendy and I were there. We said we could step up if we had to help her or something like that, but they handled it well. And then all of a sudden, Tom asked Captain Ron, he goes, "Do you think you can land this plane if something happened to the pilots?" And he goes, "Oh, I can land it better than these guys any day." That's how cocky he is.
That is so not me. But that was you said local. I know I said that, but that's a red face moment.
He said, "I'll quote you." And this is your
bit of Air Force Academy leaking out there.
He said that. Yeah. He goes, "I can land it any day of the week better than them."
All right. I have obviously lost control, so it's time for us to end this. So, Dieter, if you can put that slide up there, the one with Wendy's.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the Facebook thing. Wendy, I just want you to know, there's like over 100 responses to your post on this thing here. So can you read that on the screen here?
I can.
Okay, yeah, read that for us, because I think that, I should have clicked the more there, but anyway, read that for us, because I just thought this was just awesome.
Okay. Fears are funny. They come out of nowhere and often are completely irrational. For greater than 30 years, I've had an embarrassing and debilitating fear of flying. Many of you have followed my crazy road trips all over the country, but many didn't know it was because I was afraid to fly. I decided enough was enough, and I contacted Captain Ron Nielsen from FearlessFlight and started to put in the necessary work to take my life back. Yesterday, I flew by myself to Phoenix so I could participate in a class with Captain Ron and 2 other fearful flyers. Today, we took 2 flights together, and I can honestly and wholeheartedly say that not only did I fly, I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to my next flight home tomorrow and taking my life back. If you suffer from the same fear, please reach out to me. I cannot express in words how great it feels to lift this weight off my shoulders. Thank you, Ron Moy, that's my husband, and my kids and family for supporting me through this and loving me unconditionally. Now we can really enjoy our retirement.
Wow.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The
three of you embellish the spirit. 2 things. One is the courage that keeps me wanting to do this. I kid you not. It never gets old watching Oliver come back and do that, watching Tom sit there and get through that, and listening to Wendy get on that silly airplane and come over to fly with us to get over fair flying. I mean, it's absurd on so many levels, and yet it took courage extraordinaire. And the other thing, the 3 of them all share the quality of paying it forward as well. They're just all loving, giving, and everything. And that's what this is really all about. So with that, I'm going to thank everybody. Thanks to Diane and Eric and Dieter. And thanks to the 3 of you for coming on and sharing your stories and everything. And keep coming back. This is
you.
why we do this.
This
And
is awesome. Thank you.
so have a
Thank you.
great week, and
Hey, guys.
we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
All right,
Bye.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye.